So apparently, there are people out there who do not see the problem with the diversity higher character in Remnant 2 referencing Ford as the old white guy. I'm going to assume that they genuinely do not see what's wrong. I'm going to try to explain why. Let me start with the leftist ideology. Now, that ideology likes to talk about erasing racism, that we should not see race, and the reason for their advocacy and beating you over the head with the message is they want to create a world in which racism doesn't exist, that people's race don't matter. But here's the problem. We already had that in games. We've had that for decades. Now, unless a game is set in the real world like GTA or Mafia, characters rarely ever mentions another race. Now, where there are multiple species that exist in that world, the character species will be mentioned. So for example, it will say this conclave is run by an elf, or this band of thieves is run by an orc, or the murderer is a halfling. But they will not say that the murderer is a black guy. That is not something that old school gamers are used to. The best example I can think of is FF7. The good one, not the remake. There's a part in a game in which your party is sent to prison after a misunderstanding at a resort called Gold Saucer. You hear rumors that a man with a gun arm killed some people. Now, one of the members of your party is a man with a gun arm, and so the other members of the party are wondering if he was the one who committed the murders. It turned out that there was another man who was an acquaintance of a party members of your party member with a gun arm, and he was the acquaintance who went mad. Now, that misconception could have easily been avoided if the race of the murderer was revealed. If the rumors had said that the murderer was a white man with a gun arm, then you would know, oh, it's not my character because my party member is a black man. Now, because race did not matter back then, it did not matter to the game creators, it did not matter to gamers. The rumors, the characters in the game did not mention it, it didn't even consider it. What was considered? That he had a gun on his arm, a gun arm. Is it unrealistic? Yes. Because in describing someone, you would want to give as many observable descriptions as possible, right? So you can mention their height, weight, skin complexion, gender. Like in my case, you would say that the person has a stutter and a lisp, right? So any speech impediments, or if he walk with a limp, so any kind of easily observable characteristic you would want to mention when you're describing someone. So it's not realistic, but it is idealistic. You can live in a world in which the race literally played no part. We had that, and we had that for decades. And it wasn't until you guys came in now, what do they call it? Intersectionality. And you must basically intersect your nonsensical, left-wing, divisive, hateful politics into every facet of life. And so now all of a sudden, in a fantasy game, you're hearing that a character is referencing, and in a rather derisive manner, might I add, suddenly referencing another character's race. That is weird. We are not used to that. And so you will now say that you must look at everything through a race lens, or a funny man lens, or a trans lens, or whatever, and see how anything can be perceived as inconsiderate or offensive to that group. But yet, when it comes to white people, they are not extended that same courtesy. Under no circumstances should you look at something and say, okay, maybe white people can find this offensive. No. If white people find something offensive, it's because they are fragile. But then the goal was to entertain. The goal of your products, your entertainment products, games, movies, anime, was to entertain, not to validate political stances. And yes, you would have some influence or inspiration from the real life, but that was subtly introduced under layers upon layers of misdirection, allegory, and metaphor, to the point where it's not beating you over the head with it. And speaking of that, That argument is also very dishonest, because you know damn well that it's not just this old white guy in a vacuum. For years now, you've been bashing men, particularly white men, particularly straight white men, particularly Christian straight white men. And even I, as a black man and a Jamaican, when the game started and I saw a black character going along with your character, I'm like, ah, boy, please don't pull any woke thing where the black character has to be a tough girl boss. And the first line of dialogue in the game is our female character reporting that her mother denigrated her father. So you have a reference there of two female characters denigrating a male character. The first line of dialogue. So you have the constant male bashing, you have the other hallmarks of postmodern feminist writing. Of course, you will have a diverse character. The first interaction is clearly one in which your character is assumed to be male, and tough girl boss, she don't need your help, she can get down on your own. And before you even get to before you take a single step with a character, the black diversity hire saves your character, and then later on you're told that is actually the third time that she saved the character. And again, the assumption here based on that first interaction is that at least for that interaction your character is assumed to be male. Why? Simple. When you look at the interaction of, at least in the first half hour, I don't know what happens later on in the game, but when you look at the interaction between female characters in the first half hour, they are not hostile towards each other. They're hostile towards men. So in the opening, when your character offers a hand to the black female character, and she just says, no, I can handle it, that is not something, that is not type of behavior that a female character displays to another female character, at least in the first hour or half hour of the game. So that old white guy thing is just one indicator among many that make people wonder, hold on, is this thing woke? And I'll be honest, if I did not already play the first Remnant, and so I have an idea of how the story should play out, if it's similar structure to the first, I would not be even interested in the game, because I would think, okay, this is a woke game. But because of how the story lays out, you should not have that many other characters, at least human characters, and they should be hopping from world to world. No doubt the Clementine will be the girl who is key to everything, which is again another postmodern feminist trope. But you should not have any more male characters, especially human male characters, for the game to denigrate going forward. And because others who like the game are wondering if it's woke, I am assuming that my assumption is correct, that you don't have any more male bashing simply because of how the game is structured. But what this does mean for me personally is I don't think I'll be buying any more games from Gunfire games. So I am not particularly keen on buying any further game from them. This includes Remnant 3 if there is one. And I have to say if, because unlike the reviewers, it looks like there are people, or the actual gamers are none too happy with the performance of the game. So I don't know don't get me wrong, you do have people out there who are happy with it. And if you are able to ignore the performance, and you're able to ignore the first half hour of the woke nonsense, then it's very possible that the mechanics of the game could hold you through. But you see, what's also scary is for people to go through the first half of the opening, the tutorial section of Remnant, and not realize the feminist agenda or the feminist angle of that section, means that they have been thoroughly indoctrinated to the point where they don't even realize anymore. They can no longer identify it unless it is blatantly shoved in their face. That is one of the things I take away from people, assuming they're being honest. That is one of the things I take away. That you've been brainwashed to the point where you simply do not see the woke agenda anymore. And that is terrifying. How do you fix that? I do not know. I am not a psychologist. I know that you still need to get this out of games and anime, but in that case, it may be Gen Z is a lost cause, and it is the subsequent generations that can be saved. Anyway, this video is getting a little bit long, so I just wanted to address in good faith if some people really don't see the problem with the crass character saying old white guy. These are some of the reasons.